People want love, everybody wants a relationship and a partner, but if we're stuck in patterns or dynamics or we're not in the best place, we're most likely going to keep attracting a certain type of person or a certain type of dynamic into our life until we heal those parts of ourselves. So
welcome back to Power and Purpose Within. I'm Kori Burgess, and in each show, we celebrate creators, founders, authors, and people who are genuinely enjoying the career they choose. Genuinely enjoying it. Can you imagine enjoying your career? Well, welcome to the show. You're going to meet people that love it, and they're going to tell you why. Some of these people may look, or their businesses may look unconventional, and that's the beauty in the celebration. Their journey could be your incentive to begin your journey. Now, before we get started, if you like the show, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to stay updated on everything we're doing on this channel, make sure to ring that notification bell. Okay, let's get started. Today, we celebrate Holly McCuster, and Holly's business she is a relationship coach and she has courses also. I was presuming she's making courses. She knows what she's talking about, right? She is the founder of Love Prescriptions, the Relationship Institute. Wow, Love Prescriptions. Welcome, Holly.
thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, we're so great that you can come. Thanks for the sticking it out with us and being able to get on this podcast. I want you to know I have your website up. So I always keep the website up as we talk. And I also in the the description, we're going to have all your information, your contact information and where to follow you and all those things. But for those of people who are on Spotify and on Apple and they're driving their cars right now and they're listening to this great podcast, can you give them your website so that they can remember that, because they can't text it while they're driving?
Yes, it is simply loveprescriptions.com.
And it is a great website, helping you break free from old relationship patterns and build healthier dating, deeper love, and conscious relationships. That's on her first page, which I love. So, Holly, I always want to start off with your story. What brought you to this business?
My story. It goes way back. Gosh. Well, first of all, I started out in education. I was a teacher. I've always been of service to others and loved to educate. And part of my time as a high school teacher was in developing curriculum and teaching kids with language-based learning disabilities how to learn differently, a lot of my curriculum was based around life story, what defined you. So that's always been a thing for me. What shaped you? And that kind of went in. So I was in the education field for over 20 years. And then I moved into the matchmaking field.
But hold on a minute. I'm going to interject here because this is interesting. You created curriculum in schools?
Yes, I did. I created curriculum for an entire literature department. And I loved it. Yes. But a lot of my work was around kids love to tell stories about themselves. I mean, people love to tell stories about themselves, right? So really getting them to understand themselves and really focusing on the positive parts and their assets and their unique traits. So the storytelling became fun for kids with dyslexia who have struggled with reading and writing. It became fun and it became something that changed those stories that maybe were going through their head. Like they brought out those unique qualities about themselves and we're just able to share about that. And so it changed the story a little bit, like from I'm somebody with a learning disability to no, that's not me. Like I'm all of these other things. And this is what shaped me. So that theme of what shaped you kind of has gone through all of my life. And I brought it into matchmaking as well. So I moved into the matchmaking field a little over 10 years ago, and I didn't realize how closely it would relate to education and teaching. And it's really all about transforming lives. So, and then through matchmaking, I learned the importance of coaching my clients. And that's where I made a big shift to really focus on the coaching piece, because people want love. Everybody wants a relationship and a partner. But if we're stuck in patterns or dynamics, or we're not in the best place, we're most likely going to keep attracting a certain type of person or a certain type of dynamic into our life until we heal those parts of ourselves. So creating awareness and understanding what those parts of ourselves and how they got shaped is so important.
So that you resolve I have a bad picker. When people say, I just have a bad picker.
Yeah. And honestly, like I've gone through my own journey with it. Not to say any relationship was bad. I don't like bad or good or anything like that. Like every relationship had a purpose, but some were really hard. They were really hard lessons for me. And so part of this has been a journey to understand myself and heal not only my own wounds, but ancestral wounds as well.
That's important. That's important. Okay. So let's talk up, what is a breakup grief?
It's very similar to the loss of a person, a death, because we go through so many of the same stages. But the difference is we often don't get the same type of sympathy or understanding, or we think we need to rush through our feelings faster in order to get over it. And we're told that, right? Aren't you over it by now? But breakup grief is so complex. There's a lot that we're grieving. We could be grieving parts of ourselves or the future we imagined, or, often what happens in breakups, again, we do attract people that are put into our life for a reason to help heal wounds. And those attachments can be so much stronger. And even though we know on a conscious level that the relationship was meant to end or wasn't healthy for us, because it's attached to an old wound, it becomes a lot harder to let go. And so we get into that rumination or looping, which is a really tough stage to get stuck in. So in the breakup grief course, that's the first module, is to look at where are you in your grief and to not try to rush through it, to really just pay attention to all of the feelings that are coming up, because most likely they're feelings of decades. They're not just in the moment feelings.
Is that part of when you talk about healing from breakup? Is that part of the healing?
It really is. Yeah. I think, we have to honor those stages of denial and anger, of course, because anger at least moves emotions. Like some people are mad that they're mad, but like we have to just let those feelings come up and not try to distract or push them back down, because they're typically, like I said, feelings that have been suppressed over decades, So to get to the depression or sadness stage, which is to really sit in the grief, and it's for what you can. I don't necessarily say you have to sit in your bed for weeks, but like when those feelings come up, don't dismiss or disregard them, which is something we're often taught to do in childhood. Get over it. Don't do that. So a big question I have in the process is, how were you taught to deal with your feelings? Because often I'll see someone come in and like, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Like, I want to get to the solution and how to move forward. You can't until you actually sit with the feelings and are no longer afraid of the discomfort. So it's really rewiring so much of what we're taught at a very young age to do and conditioned. And then to finally get to that final stage of forgiveness, because the forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for ourselves. And we have to understand why this relationship was in our life and what can we learn from it? How can we learn and grow from it? Because there's always something in there to teach us.
That's beautiful. What is the emotional blueprint? Is that what we're talking about now? What's that look like when you set up an emotional blueprint? Can you explain that?
Yeah. So that goes way back, right? So we talk about the nervous system, and that is formed in utero. So when your mom or caregiver is pregnant, and what's happening there. So I always like to, if you're a caregiver or you're not in touch with, or they're not alive, like imagine what it maybe was like in there, where the conditions good. Was there anxiety happening? What was going on around, right? Because that's the first formation of the nervous system. And then in the first 18 months of life, the attachment is being formed. And attachment is not fixed. It's typically formed at that young age. And then we have experiences in life that either confirm that and it like sticks with us, or we can have experiences that help us move more into a secure attachment, but we can also have experiences that shift us more into anxious or avoidant attachment styles. So it's very important.
Let me ask you this. You said when you're in the uterus, you are literally forming these emotions.
Be informed. Yeah. So
okay, it's based upon that mother's emotions. So what is happening to this person inside is reflected upon the mother carrying the baby. So if there's stress or, wow, that's part of the building of the baby. All right. So now the baby is born, and 18 months, you were saying.
The attachment style is formed within the first 18 months.
Is that the attachment to the mother or the attachment to the feeling?
Just how how we attach in relationship. And so it's formed typically with the caregivers. So a nanny coming in or whatever, but how are your caregivers showing up? Are they attuning? Are they helping regulate, or are they causing dysregulation? Are they getting angry fast? Are they dismissing your feelings? Are they walking away when you cry? Those types of things. So we have 4 attachment styles: secure, if you're lucky to grow up in a really calm environment, and tends to be about 50% of the population, although I see more of the other styles. So I'm always curious how true that actually is. And you can be in a secure attachment when you're just in regular everyday activity, but when you hit conflict, you might shift into a anxious or an avoidant attachment, like shut down during conflict or needing reassurance, like all of those things can happen. But so yeah, first 18 months, we form this attachment. It carries through. We get experiences that either reconfirm that or can shift it if you're lucky. And then in the first 7 years of life, we have our, what we call origin wounds. So there are experiences that are happening that are creating these thoughts like, I'm not worthy, or abandonment when somebody's going to leave, or the safety, security, trust wound. And then we have the belonging wound. So all 3 of these pieces, it's so important to understand what was happening in those first 7 years of life, because this creates the blueprint. And much as we'd like to say we grow up and mature, which we do, but especially in relationship and especially in conflict, when the blueprint really gets triggered. So if you know in some of your arguments or whatever, then it doesn't have to be with a partner, but typically that's what's is going to impact it the most. So do you shut down? Do you avoid conflict? Do you do silent treatment? Or do you get very anxious and you need a really fast result? You can't, it's the like repeated calling over and over again because you need a response because you're so afraid of abandonment. So I know that's a lot to say.
But so as you're saying this, you said it could happen with a partner or a spouse. Does it happen with anyone that you have love for more so than those that you don't? So if you're just in a conflict with somebody that doesn't really matter, it's probably not going to stir this up as much as if it's with someone that you love or have deep feelings for.
Exactly, because you're fearing what the attachment means. Like, does this mean if I say this or if I don't show up this way, are they going to walk away? Are they going to not like me? All of these thoughts can come up. So the more the person is in your life or more important in your life, it is going to show up more. You're going to be triggered more. You're going to have that fear come up a little bit more.
Now, what about those in relationship? And I know this is just so juicy. This is so good. But what about those that are in a relationship and let's say the person has no feeling, like let's say a narcissist, they don't really have any feeling of they're wrong or they don't have maybe they do, I don't know. But what happens if someone is in a relationship like that and the narcissist says they love them? Does a narcissist ever feel these things?
So I guess and I'm not an expert on narcissism, but I think that apparently it's only 1.6% of the population. So if we think about that's a very small number. But what I think is that a lot of people have narcissistic tendencies. So when you're speaking of a full-on narcissist, that is where maybe those feelings are very, very detached. But I think what can show up in tendencies are the attachment. So the avoidant attachment who is dismissive or shuts down or, goes cold, gives you the silent treatment. They punish you with that silent treatment. It can appear that they have no feelings or emotions, but what's really happening is they don't have the capacity to hold their own emotions. So now they have a partner who's asking them to sit with their feelings. It's way too overwhelming. So they shut down. So that's what might feel. And I think a lot of people will say, oh, my ex was a narcissist because of that reason, because it felt like he was cold and had no feelings, but underneath it all, he was just afraid.
What's so funny is we said because there's no female narcissist.
Well, that's not true, though. There are.
I know, but in general, it's when I think of a narcissist, I never think of a woman.
Yeah, true.
You men who are watching, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to say that. So how does this blueprint, what you're talking about, how do you help someone who's affected in that relationship? If it's not them, but it's been done to them, I guess it doesn't matter if it's done to them or not, because they're still dealing with their own blueprint, right?
Yeah, it's a big one because anxious attachment and an avoidant attachment is the strongest connection. It creates a lot of chemistry. And so anxious people are often matched or drawn toward avoidance.
Hold on. So anxious, I'm trying to picture that because I'm very visual. So somebody that's anxious about something and somebody who avoids something, they are attracted to each other?
Yeah, they are often attracted, and this creates an anxious avoidant loop. As you can imagine, the anxious person needs more reassurance. That creates discomfort for the avoidant. So they're moving in the other direction, which then creates the anxious wanting to latch.
But why would the avoidance even stay? Why would the avoidance be attracted to somebody anxious?
Because it's like they're both trying to heal something. The avoidant has their own healing to do, and there is an opportunity in that relationship to heal. It would be a beautiful thing if both partners could learn to regulate their nervous system, could learn what is actually happening with their blueprint, because there's often a lot of love in that relationship. And the relationship does not end because of lack of love. So they're drawn together. There's that big chemistry. But in order for that relationship to actually work, it requires almost a miracle, but it's an awareness of all these things. So the both anxious and avoidant have to learn how to regulate their nervous system, have to understand what's actually happening when in these moments when they're triggered, and then understand from, when we're in conflict and you've been married or you're married. So think about this, often who shows up in that conflict is usually like your 5 or 7-year-old self. It's not you at this age, right? So if you can start to understand the wounds of the person you're in the relationship with, you could start to understand their attachment style and what's happening in these moments. That's where the co-regulation and the healing can happen. But unfortunately, that's not what typically happens. So it becomes a big loop. And then what you were asking about in Breakup, what becomes really hard is typically the avoidant will shut down and become dismissive. Like they could just ghost even after 3 or 4 years, just shut down and there's no more contact. And then the anxious person feels completely discarded. And then they see the avoidant person moving on very quickly while they're still over here dealing with these major emotions and rumination and all of that. But what's really happening, and this is what helps them, they understand the mechanisms underneath all of this, is that avoidant person is typically just not able to sit with those emotions. So they're going to distract in any way possible. So one big way to distract is to move quickly into another relationship. There's a lot of shame in a avoidant attachment, and so they don't want to face the shame. So if they just find someone else to replace, even if it's not love, even if it's not the ideal person for them, it's a replacement. But then you have the anxious person over here thinking, I've just been replaced and they don't even care about me.
Yeah.
But it's not it's all the factors underneath that are really driving the show.
As you're speaking, I can think about different clients that I'm working with through life coaching. I'm check. Wow. Yeah.
If as you're listening, you realize you want more structure and support around this kind of inner work, I want to share something with you. I've created a 30-day personal growth challenge designed to help you slow down, reflect, and reconnect with yourself. One simple day at a time. It's not about perfection, and it's not about pressure. It's about awareness and alignment and gentle consistency. If that feels supportive for where you're at right now, you'll find all the details linked in the episode description.
So would you say, do you still matchmake?
I have one matchmaking client. I love matchmaking, but I love coaching way more. And I feel like that's where the transformation happens. So that's where I prefer to spend my time.
So if you're coaching 3 or 4 different people and you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, this one would be good for this one, then you could just do a little matchmaking there too.
Oh, that I do. Yes, that I do. The matchmaker mind never shuts off. So
Yeah,
yes.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
I have a question here. Are you working with people who are grieved from just dating breakup or marriage divorce too?
Yeah, divorce and breakup. And even if it's been years, because what happens is we all have relationship patterns, and 85 to 90% of us will repeat those patterns over and over and over again. There's just a small percentage who don't do that, like 10%, but 85 to 90% repeat the pattern. Only 10 to 15% of people become aware of what this pattern and dynamic. And there's always a pattern and a dynamic in a relationship. So then I teach them how to interrupt that pattern and how to become aware of it, and then how to rewire the pattern. So really, you could have been divorced 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but you're still going into the next relationship repeating the same patterns over and over again because you never went through the grief process and took the time to really heal, which is most people. Like, they just want to move on, right? Or they don't have the tools to understand what it really takes to heal these parts.
Or they don't even, they have these parts. They just think that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And now we know why the divorce rate is so high and why, there's a lot of unhappy people out there.
And why less people are married. That less people are getting married because they're like, well, I don't even know if it's worth it, because they don't see
And then we do see more women doing the work. So we see like women moving ahead in self-awareness and like doing the things like learning how to regulate their nervous system and learning how to work on their attachment style and all these things. We do tend to see that more, but I will tell you, because I love my men that I coach, and every man who's ever sat across from me is like, okay, I wished I'd known about this sooner, or I'm so glad I'm here. And even just crying, being able to cry and sit with feelings is huge. So I think it's a lot of just providing the opportunity, like them knowing it's out there. They will definitely transform.
I thoroughly agree with that. My husband and I, we've been married 42 years. This year will be 43 years. And we used to work in ministry with young couples, young marrieds. And then we started teaching just marriage classes. And from that, it was no longer teaching. It was really mentoring. And I don't want to say we weren't counselors, but we were confidants. And how many men came to my husband and had these conversations? They just need to know that there's somebody safe that they can talk to. Women, we just feel safe. It's like, are you a menopause? Yeah. Oh, ha, ha, ha. And then everybody gets along, or you've been, if you've been, women are easier to connect. We're more glue, Men are cement though. I mean, when they connect, they are tight, And even to this day, my husband has the greatest relationships with men who he mentored 30 years ago, who are grown-up men now, and have their own families, and they're still touching base. And
I bet they would all say he changed their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hear what you're saying. There are men out there. And I think a lot of times some men don't want to talk to women because we get it so easily. It's like, well, that was easy. It can't be that easy. How can you understand it so clearly? But that's just our nature. We're nurturers, and their nature, they're warriors. So they're like, no, you got to fight. Oh, you have to fight for this. So, it's a beautiful thing.
And they were never taught to sit with their feelings.
Just move on. Yes, true. I wanted to also ask you, how do people develop their perception of love and what that looks like to them? How do they, is that in the incubation? That's emotions. That's not necessarily love, right?
Well, I think it can be developed in a number of ways, right? So sometimes they see good examples, and then sometimes they have that as a reference. But I think sometimes they see bad examples and want something different. I think often we can want something different, but that programming, that what we, that subconscious running it can interfere with that. It's like we can want to do something different, but once we really trace the patterns and look at the dynamic, we may see, like if we didn't want to be like our parent, we may see some resemblance to it, even though consciously we're trying hard not to be that way. So I think it can be developed in a lot of different ways. And then obviously really great experiences help that, but then difficult experiences can have the reverse effect. What we do a lot is try to find the good and in the not so good experience, so we can see what this meant to teach me, how is this meant to evolve me, and all of those things. So it can be such a catalyst for growth, and breakups are really hard. But if you can understand that on the other side of this is a whole new person. And I think the greatest gift that comes out of that transformation is relationship with self.
Completely. As you were talking about the first 7 years and how you developed your emotional blueprint and how all that works, I was thinking about how many people do I know who have said, I'm so thankful that my grandmother raised me instead of my mother. My mother handed me over to my grandmother because she knew how to raise me. Or people who had caregivers living in the home with them who protected them from the parents, and ended up, those children knew that they were safer than the parent.
Yeah.
And then they go to school and they have a teacher who they just absolutely adore because of the love. First 7 years, that's so, you don't go to school till you're 7 years old, 6 years old, but I guess pre-K is 6. Yeah. So you're talking about being at home or somewhere, daycare somewhere, with someone who is laying down the foundation of you understanding what is supposed to be accepted emotionally for certain areas in life. If parents knew that or understood the importance of that, I think children would have a better chance of having a positive outlook on themselves. Even if they do, the work would be less hard,
Absolutely. A regulated nervous system that from a parent is like a golden ticket, and regulated certainly can have the reverse effect. So having other good role models, and like you said, like the grandparent or somebody who step in, and they probably felt like that shift from that disparate parent into like a safer place. So and often what ends up happening in adulthood is that we have to learn to create that safety for ourselves, because we're often outsourcing, and that's what we do in relationships. We partner up to think somebody's going to help heal this part of us or help create this for us, but no. And that's a big part of the journey with the breakup, is like learning to create that safety within yourself is really big, because often I never had that safety. Like, I know for me, the safety wound is a big one, and I was outsourcing. So it was like, okay, I need to do some work here. I see.
It's interesting that, again, just from our experience with people who are married and people who are struggling, the first time we realized that we were ignorant to what was actually going on around us. Because you can feel, if you're around another couple, you can sense the energy. If you're sensitive to it, and if you're just talking, if you're just having true conversation, not just talking like this, but really listening how they interact with you. And this is years ago, 36 years ago, I think she was a year old maybe. We had this couple over because they had a new baby, and we had this 1-year-old, and we're just talking and not thinking about what we're listening to. And, we thought we had a good night with them. And then the next week we saw the gentleman in church, and we said, where's his wife's name? And he said, oh, we're no longer together. And we're like, we just saw you Friday night. And he said, yeah, we just did that because we know you guys wanted to see us, but we're not together. And our hearts broke because we had 2 hours, probably 3 or 4 hours. And we ate too. They came over. We could have at least had discussion. It might not have done anything to break through anything, but who knows? But we were so caught up in just being, just talking and being these young, new married couples. And granted, we waited 5 years before we had our daughters. So I guess we weren't really new married couples, but, new parents, and just talk without listening. And we looked at each other and said, we will never. And we actually worked in the young marrieds ministry. We're like, okay, that was a flop. One of the marrieds is not married. We're not doing a good job.
Well, but look what you've done. Like, I love that that was a defining moment for you all to say, we're going to get through what
they're in our group, and we don't even get it. We were one of the leaders, and that's why we had them over. We're like, we're not leading very well. We're not even listening.
They didn't give you the opportunity, though.
But it wasn't even like that was the first time we knew them, so it's like, were we really listening? And so many couples can do that. And I'm not even saying married couples. I just mean couples. If you really want to develop a friendship with someone, it starts with listening, because there could be pain, and somebody might not even be talking. It's just what they're saying, not necessarily the words they're saying. It's how they're saying it. And we've heard a lot of, oh, well, he doesn't like that about me. Or, she's always telling me I'm not good enough for that, or we don't need that. She says, or it even could sound nice. She says I'm great without it, but you want it, it's like, but it's those little things in relationships.
Yeah. And that goes back to like our origin wounds, because we all have primary and secondary, and some of us have more than two. But, you know, a lot of times in conflict or in relationship, that person can heal or harm that part of you even more. It's a part of yourself. Like if you didn't feel prioritized, and that you have the prioritization wound, and your partner is kind of doing things that enhance that wound, right? So understanding yourself, understanding why this is a much bigger deal for you, and being able to articulate that with your partner, and hoping they have the respect and compassion to be able to help you instead of make that part harder.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about, I love this breakup compass on your website. You go, girl. Explain that.
Yeah, I love my compass. Me and ChatGPT created that. But yeah, it actually gives you a lot of information with only answering, I think it's only 12 to 15 questions, but it's going to tell you about your nervous system. It's going to tell you about your attachment style and your origin wounds. So it kind of gives you the blueprint. It shows you where you are in the stages of grief. And then it will guide you as to what next steps could work for you. I have a self-guided course that people can go through, the breakup course. It's gotten a great feedback, really good reviews of transforming just how they work through this grief and the breakup. And it also not only this current breakup, but it's like, whoa, I can see these things from past experiences that I hadn't healed yet. Now can heal through this. So that it leads you to that, or it would lead you to the best scenario is doing that course with one-on-one coaching. I've tried to do group coaching, but I think people right now, I'm not going to quit on it, but I think people really want that one-on-one. They just want to be able to work through all of these emotions, and just in a more private setting. Those two things combined, I make a significant transformation. I've yet to have anyone not transform. Now, it's not to say they like are over their breakup and no feelings come back. Like that's not possible, but they're now able to be way more aware of what's happening, and then what they need to give themselves in order to continue growing in the right direction and healing. And it's great because a lot of the people that are in my course, they make a decision not to date during that and I think it's great. They're not like running back out and trying to find someone to, distract them. They're really working on themselves during that time. I don't say they have to do that. They just seem to make that decision, which is amazing. And sometimes even at the end, because at the end of the course, we now work on what core values are in a relationship, and how, like, have we chosen based on our core values in the past, or are we choosing based on something else? And so once we get to that last stage, which is really defining what those are for yourself, and then making sure that what we're looking for in a partner, we are showing up in that value ourselves. Because often we might say we want trust, right? That's a big one. We want trust. But when you talk about self-trust, there's like extremely limited. So then we work on how do we build that self-trust. Compassion, same thing. Self-compassion is so important during this time. So yeah, so the compass is really cool. I say it's like, even if you do nothing else but use the tool, I think it's going to provide a lot of insight into your blueprint and where you are in the process. And then it also will give you some steps to like, oh, try this. It does different things depending on what you answer on the questions.
And see, no sign up, no down. This is, yeah. I notice here you say you're not broken, you're responding to loss. That's something I say you're not broken, you're becoming. The sad part is they actually understand when you say you're not broken, because they feel broken. And broken looks different to everyone, but what a sad resort to go to broken instead of you're responding to loss, or you're becoming. Yeah. You're just coming out of something. Yeah.
Sitting with feelings and like not judging those feelings is so important. So whatever is coming up, let it come up, and then let's create awareness around it, because it's often attached to not just a belief that you formed, but a belief that could have been formed generations ago, which is like when generations don't heal, they get carried down. And then here we are with this big pile of and you could be healing the generational curse of many decades.
Absolutely. Sometimes you can even see it in your family, and you just think, well, that's just my family, as opposed to, no, I don't have to be that. I don't have to accept that. because it's easier. It seems easier. It's actually tougher, but it seems easier to just accept it as opposed to say, no, I want to work through that so that doesn't happen for me. And to break it so it doesn't continue in my children. You know?
Exactly. I think that's what gets people to want to do it more is when you say you can stop this for your children. Because when you say you can stop this for you, it's kind of like, okay, it still works.
I've linked with it.
You say you can stop this for your children. That's when people go, oh, okay, maybe I'll do it.
Okay. I want to ask you, in general, what helped you shift your mindset for this business, to have this business? What helped you shift from the Matchmaker into this? What were the deeper thoughts?
I will say it's twofold. So one, it was seeing my clients, some of them having great success. Like I was a very good matchmaker where I could find people their partner and had a lot of marriages, which was great. So I had an eye for that alignment. But then the majority, though, of clients who struggled or had repeated setbacks or, they just were very much struggling in the dating and wanted to quit or things like that. I focused more on them. So with that, coaching was the piece because coaching would help them identify like their limiting beliefs and like, their scarcity mindset often, like whatever you're thinking, you're attracting. So if you're coming into this with scarcity, so what are the things that are standing in the way? So there was the piece for my clients and then the piece for myself, because you can intellectually know all these things, but until you start to embody and integrate and work at the nervous system level, these things will not change. And so I could see, whoa, this pattern or dynamic repeated again. And so there's something in me that's needing attention. And so that's where I went deep into that blueprint, because it's 95% subconscious, right? And then only 5% of the conscious mind. So we have to know what's underneath. So what's really the driving factor? And if we have a lot of these unhealed things, and especially if we're performers or over functioners, and that's how we go through life, just functioning and over functioning, we're not really letting ourselves fall apart and really see what needs healing. So
I love that. Letting yourselves fall apart. I love that. It's okay. Yeah. Let yourself fall apart. Because then you can see everything so you know what to rebuild without the other stuff. And wow, Holly, let yourself fall apart. And most people say, no, don't fall apart about this. They do. Don't. Yeah. You're like, no, let it go.
Let it all fall apart so you can build a foundation, based on authenticity and what you truly want and desire. Because we're just running on programs.
We are. We're all the matrix, aren't we? Wow. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So how can people follow you outside of your website? Do you have any speaking that you're going to be doing? Do you have a YouTube channel? Anything that they can watch you? Instagram, LinkedIn?
I do have Instagram, which is also Love Prescriptions. I am going to be a speaker at the Global Grief Conference in April. So that one will be live on YouTube and all that. So I'll be sharing that information on Instagram. I also have a Facebook group for dating and relationships posting there. So,
and I think we have those links. I'm just checking to see if I have those links. Love Prescriptions on Instagram. That's the only link I have here.
On Facebook, it's just under my name. And then once they connect with me on Facebook, they will get an invitation to the Relationship Coaching Collective.
Well, thank you so much. This has been very informative. And, first of all, I just want to thank you for your energy and your revelation into these things. This is really enlightening for people who don't live in that realm. If you don't live in, even though we're living with relationships, when we don't take the time to understand why we are the way we are and what shifts we can have and what aha moments or revelations, if somebody like you doesn't come along, we just don't know. We just don't know.
And
so thank you for
the
that.
world, heal ourselves, and then we can offer that same space for others to heal. It's such a beautiful thing. And I think if people could just take the time and prioritize that piece, because I don't know, for me, it's the purpose in life.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And again, check out Holly. You'll see in the descriptions her links to her website and to her Instagram account. And thanks for following us and joining us on our show. Listen, just know that if you want to see anything else that I've got going on, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and, LinkedIn and all those little platforms and locations that you can find me. But again, thanks for joining us for Power and Purpose Within. And we will see you on the next show. Take care, everyone. See you next show.